Good morning, grade 1. How are you today? Hope you are all safe at home. This is Teacher Marv speaking, and welcome back to our online lesson. Okay, so I will be teaching you the math lesson. Do you love math? Okay, if yes, I want you to bring out your math textbook, your pencil, and eraser. Okay. So let's have our review. Let's try to remember and read together the essential understanding of this lesson. Again, two-dimensional shapes can be combined to make new two-dimensional shape. Okay, here's some examples. In making new shape, you need to use two or more smaller shapes to make a new shape. Like for example, here we have a rectangle. This rectangle is the result of two squares. And the next one, we have a circle here. This circle is the result of two halves. When you put it together, it becomes a whole, which is a circle. Next example. When you make a square, the square is the result of two triangles. You have one, two. When you put it together, it becomes a square. Now the second and third example, I want you to put it together. Think how you will do it, and you can draw the correct or the new shape at the right side. Okay? So great. Let's move on. Again, remember that 6 triangles can be put together to make a hexagon. 2 triangles can be put together to make a square. 2 squares can be put together to make a rectangle. Okay, so here we have 2 triangles. Look at the shape here on the left side. We need 2 triangles and a circle to make a new shape. And the second one, we need 2 squares and a triangle to make this shape. And the third and fourth, I want you to do it alone with your mom and see how you can make a hexagon. Very good. Okay, let's move on. What do you think is our next lesson? Of course, it's the lesson 5 from unit 14. Compose new 2D shapes from 2D shapes. You can also open your book on page 771 to 774. Okay, so here's our objective. For today's lesson, I can use shapes to make different shapes. Okay, so to further understand our lesson, I want you to watch this video and listen carefully.
The essential understanding for this lesson is two-dimensional shapes can be combined to make new two-dimensional shapes. Previously, students combined two-dimensional shapes to create larger two-dimensional shapes. In this lesson, students combine two-dimensional shapes to make more complex two-dimensional shapes that are pictures of real-world objects. For this problem, provide students with pattern blocks. This problem is key because students are asked to use pattern blocks to help them combine two-dimensional shapes to make a picture of a boat. Listen and look for students who combine 2 or 3 pattern blocks to make a small boat, and then trace around the shapes to show the picture. Assure these students that they have solved the problem correctly, but encourage them to think about how they could use other shapes and a greater number of shapes to make an even larger picture of a boat. Ask these students what shapes they would expect to see on a boat. Then remind them that not all boats look the same, so there are many ways to make a boat with pattern blocks. Listen and look for other students who combine pattern blocks in a different way to make a boat. And then trace the shapes to show the picture. Listen for some of these students to explain how they decided what shapes to use. For example, they may explain that they used a triangle and a parallelogram to make the slanted ends of the boat, and the square to make the flat roof of the boat. Both groups of students demonstrate that they are building an understanding of how to combine two-dimensional shapes to make new two-dimensional shapes that are pictures of real-world objects. In later lessons, students extend this work to three-dimensional geometry as they combine solid shapes to make larger shapes.
Okay, excellent video, isn't it? Good. Now I'm sure that you have a clear idea of our lesson today. But still, I want to explain some of examples here. Okay. In here, you can use shapes to make a picture. Look at the picture here. We have a house. You can use a triangle and a square to make a house. The house is the result of two shapes or two smaller shapes. The next example, the house is becoming bigger. You just need to add shapes to change the picture itself. You can use a larger house by adding a rhombus and one more square. Another example. Here's another example. Okay? Once you put another small shapes, like two more squares, the house will look even larger. So, here are more pictures you can make. This lesson is actually very exciting because you are going to make different kinds of shapes. Okay. Example 1. Okay, how to compose shapes. We have two triangles and one square. Put the other triangle here and the other one here and the square in the middle. The result will be this image. We have a trapezoid and two trapezoids and one triangle. The result is this shape. You can trace it so you can see clearly the different smaller shapes. Okay, next, another example. This picture, it is composed of one rectangle, 6 rhombus, 1 hexagon, and one shape like this. When you put it together, this will be the shape. Okay, how about the kite shapes? You can shape and draw the kite first, and then afterwards use some smaller shapes to design your kite. Your goal should have this kind of shape. All right, another one. I can make a bird's nest. Can you? You can draw it first and try to use different smaller shapes. Put it together and it will look like this. How about a cat? Can you make? How about a lion? Oh, it's interesting. How about a dog? Okay, let's see. Open your book on page 771. Okay, here, the solve and share. Can you read with me the question? Use your shapes to make a small boat. Then trace the boat in the space below. Okay, what shapes would you see on a boat? Or what shapes are these pattern blocks? Ask yourself. You are going to use different small shapes like squares, rectangles, triangles, and hexagon. When you put it together, it will make a new shape. Okay, let's try to see the work of Kim. Kim uses 5 triangles and 1 square to make her boat. She says that she knew the triangles would give her boat slanted sides and the square would look like the top of a boat. You can pause the video to answer and write the correct answer. Okay? So, let's move to page 772. Guided practice. Start with a triangle and use pattern blocks to make a picture. Trace around your shapes to show your picture. Write how many of each shape you used. Number 1. You can only see a triangle there. Now, you need to write how many triangles you will need, how many square, how many rhombus, and how many shapes like this to make a new shape. I'll give you a minute to do that. Start. All right, let's check your answer. Okay, if you want to use 1 triangle, 2 squares, 2 rhombus, and 1 trapezoid, you can have this kind of shape. And if you have another form or another new shape, then you can draw it there. Just make sure that you put numbers of smaller shapes down. Next, 773. We have here the independent practice. Use any of the pattern blocks shown to make pictures. Trace around your shapes to show your pictures. Write how many of each shape you use for each picture. Now make sure that your new shape is composed of triangle, square, trapezoid, and rhombus. Just name here and write how many of these smaller shapes you need to make a larger new shape. I'll give you 1 minute to do that. Start, and later we will check your answer. Okay, let's check your answer now. Okay, here's the answer. The answer to number 2 and number 3 are in here. But of course, you can form or draw another new shape other than these answers given. You can pause the video to write the answers properly. All right. Open your book on page 774 down. There is a question there, number 4 and number 5. Dana started making a flower using these pattern blocks. Draw more leaves and petals to help her finish. So, the petals are actually not finished yet. So, we are going to add one more triangle here. And for the leaf, we need to put one rhombus here. So this one, that one, and that one. Okay. Number 5. Use pattern blocks to make a picture of a fish. You can draw first the fish and decide which smaller shapes you need to put. Okay, so answer that one. I'll give you a minute for that, and we are going to read the question number 6 and check our answers. Start now. All right, so let's move to number 6 on the same page. We have Jeff is making a model of this arrow. Which shape does he need to add to his model to finish it? So, is it A, B, C, or D? This is the arrow. This is your drawing. Now, which of these shapes you need to add to for this shape to look like this? Okay, let's see. Let's check our answer now. Okay, here's our answers from numbers 4, 5, and 6. All right. Thank you so much for listening and participating. I hope you learned something today. See you on the next video. Have a nice day. Thank you.